Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful evening. Let's jump right on into Collectively Rewilding. And it's always so different. It's so weird how from one account to another it changes. All right, here we are in Collectively Rewilding. And I have not been very active this week. I really appreciate Tammy and Ethel posting some things for you guys and keeping some material being out there. I didn't feel very great, and everything's just been kind of crazy all around. So I'm hoping that we're going to start getting back to normal. And I think what I've decided for the sewing circle session that just has not managed to take place, I wanted to do one where we all just hang out and just kind of talk, and then have another recording of my hands that I could post with it in case someone wanted to see what I was doing a little more closely. But it's stalling me from being able to move forward. So I think that we're just going to turn that into a completely talk session and just kind of hang out. And I encourage you to bring your mending, and then you're certainly welcome to ask questions. I'll show you what I'm doing and kind of tell you all about how it'll be done, but I won't really be showing you so much, right? And where I've really been concentrating is on moving forward with the nonprofit and all of that great stuff, and just keeping the garden wet right now. So I have been pretty successful, and I think some of the seedlings are still dying, and that's okay. That's because the soil was so low quality. That's why I used cover crops and wildflower seeds. I didn't put in any good quality, expensive, delicate, specific needs kind of plants. I put in some of the toughest kinds of plants, really. And I've watched them get to about a certain height, and then nothing really happens, and there's still just some that are at a certain height. And what that's telling me is that some of them they're reaching really small layers, right? And then they're just kind of dying out, because in certain areas there are, probably 2-inch high seedlings. In some really good spots, there might even be 3 or 4-inch seedlings. And so what's happening is, even though they are some of those really tough seeds, a lot of them are not making it in the soil. However, that is not something to be demoralized about, because every little seed that comes in and then peters out is leaving its nutrients, its chemical structure there to decompose, and working that soil just a little bit, not really, but the fact that they were able to put out any kind of root at all is better than nothing. They are really, really healthy looking until they sort of just disappear. So it's really hard to bring life back to soil. You have to be patient with the soil. You have to be patient with yourself. Don't invest a ton of money in the seeds that you're putting out. If you want to do something like seedlings right away, you definitely want to add some better soil around it. Dig out, 2 or 3 times even what you normally would, and add in some better soil to give those seedlings a good, strong shot at actually surviving in soil that has been neglected for a long period of time. So I'm not demoralized. It's a little, darn, of course you want to see it as highly successful as possible. But there are a lot of areas where the soil wasn't as dead that have some really good turnaround. And with the other areas, though we haven't seen a lot of the seeds that I deliberately planted come to fruition, the weeds came back throughout the majority of the dead soil. There are still some patches that even the weeds haven't been able to breach. It will take time. The decomposition that's happening with the wood chips will very much help that soil to continue to regenerate, even though plant life still can't establish itself there quite yet. What's happening is that the bugs will slowly move in underneath that decomposing wood material, and that will be working in conjunction to improve the most devoid of any life soil that we had here in the backyard. So moving forward, I plan to see about maybe a third of the area I planted show some decent plants from what we put out, right? It would be wonderful if it was more, but I have really, really kept everything wet except for one little area on the most westerly part of the largest berm. It just I could not keep it wet. Now it's staying wet because some weeds have established themselves, but there are almost no seedlings that I placed in that area. And the bund is even worse. I didn't spend a lot of time putting very new seeds there. I'd already seen that it was really, of the structures, the hardest to keep wet. The sunken garden is the easiest. The main berm and swale have been more challenging, not so much on the easterly side, but the westerly side. And the bund, oh, it's just struggling. Now, it's also right next to that huge mound of dirt and to the swale and berm that I didn't put any seedlings in, as it's too close to that berm. I'm not going to, or that mound, that huge mound of thousands of pounds of soil, it's going to dry everything out right there. So it's not quite accurate to say that the bund is the least productive yet. I do believe we're going to find that next year once we've gotten some more of that dirt moved. However, we have to kind of wait just a little bit longer to see if the bund is close to as successful as the berm and swale system, right? Oh, goodness. And so today I met with Julia May, our Mighty Networks expert, and some of the changes that we're going to be seeing going forward. I think I've talked to you guys a little bit about some of what I had guessed that she would want to do when she came to work here in our community. And it is along those lines. First of all, we want to have a quick start launch pad. I know you guys are familiar with what that term means over in Lesko Help 2, and it will be quite comparable here. The things that she's implemented in the community in Lesko Help 2 are much like what the structure will be here. It will be just completely different topics. And so I'm really excited. I have no idea exactly what she means by that yet. We have to spend some time discussing how she intends to break this down differently. She doesn't like that Collectively Rewilding is separated from Collectively Rewilding, that the emojis in the overall titles, she wants to see those disappear. Just have the capital letters and the fancy arrow, and take all the emojis out. And I had been able to emulate some of her earlier icons for our spaces, and then it changed and it went to colored emojis on top of the background instead of the clean white background on whatever color you use. And so we had to start seeing it shift already. As you can see, some of them are that really clean, pretty white, and then some of them start having color. She's going to change that for us entirely and make these fit a lot more smoothly together and have a much more cohesive feel to the overall space. We're going to change some of the tiling. We're going to change some of the thumbnails for the courses and things like that. She wants to cut out some of the additional tabs that are in each space, which I've already started to do, and I just haven't had the time to dig in and do that. And we are going to get back together next week. I'm going to absorb everything that we talked about today, and the 2 little videos that she made for this community. I may even share those with you guys if I'm able to do that. I don't know if I'm able to do that, but I definitely would love to see you guys along for the ride. And I really want to highlight that community spirit that we all take part in. Lesko Help 2 is where we all met, Julia as well. And then I built my community. Then I was invited into Julia May's community alongside of Megan Pater and all that she's doing for her various endeavors. And so that is the spirit of Collectively Rewilding, as we've talked about over and over. And we haven't managed to get some additional content creation here within Collectively Rewilding. Oh, that's not true. That's not true. Oh, let me take that back. We had our first meeting with Miss Tammy. Not surprising that she is our second content creator so far here in Collectively Rewilding. She is such an ambitious, energetic, and committed person that I am so blessed to have all of you here in the community. And Tammy has supported me for years across a variety of different things that I've done. So she's an amazing sounding board and collaborator, and she comes up with great ideas, great content for you guys. And now she has a class here in Collectively Rewilding. So we have expanded a little bit there. Goodness, I'm going to have to just totally flip my mind around. I didn't even really take it in, guys. Yay, that's a whole new milestone. I'm so busy, I don't even really get to celebrate as much as I'd like to when we reach those milestones. speaking of which, we are over 100 members now. So not the hugest community, but we are growing, and it's growing pretty well. I'm really excited about that. It's more about that core group building on to those of us who interact across so many different layers and getting some people in from various communities. That's what we're working on. That's what we'll be working on with Julia May. We're going to start here in this community and get it just perfectly polished, really exemplifying what it means for us to be collectively rewilding, really dial that down and put it all together in that nice, structured, very well presented material that we've learned to appreciate from Julia May. And continuing on, we may get some interaction with Megan Pater. We've talked about that. And so we are seeing our community grow in both members and in collaborations, right? And that is just so exciting. I can't even say what wonderful things I feel about all of these things that we're doing here together. And I hope that Benny will join us as well. He's discussed it for quite a while. And oh gosh, that would be wonderful to see you engaged in both communities at some point, Benny. And so that is the kind of big topics that I've been dealing with and that we've been dealing with here. And gosh, I ran through all of that really quickly. I did not do a lot this week, you guys. So where are you all at? Let's check out the chat, see if anybody has anything to say about what they've got going on. Looks like everybody's just saying hey and talking about the positive things we've got going on. It's so wonderful. How about you, Miss Tammy? Where are you at with what you've got going on? Have you gotten anything out of the cups yet?
Yeah, they're growing.
They're still in their cups though, right? You're not quite
Yeah,
ready.
they're still in their solo cups. I do have to transplant a couple of them because the roots are looking really healthy, and it's about the time where I need to transplant them, or a couple of them at least, into a a little bigger container than those little solo cup that I got going on for them. But other
So are
than
they going to
that,
go into other containers? They're not going to go into the soil then, is that right?
they're not going to go into the soil yet. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
going to transplant them into another bigger, pot, and then probably a 5-gallon bucket or whatever. And then, when my soil or whatever area that I'm working on, and I feel that it's okay to do that, because right now I haven't really messed with the soil quite yet. So I'm
Well,
just,
do you think it might be something to consider leaving them in containers as you guys are working with your outside area?
yeah,
Or
that's
do
what we're
you,
doing. That's what
well, I
like
mean,
I'm.
like maybe for the season, right? Because if they get to a certain size, you won't really want to disturb them, or it might stop them from being able to produce in the season.
Yeah, right now it's just like a trial and error for me, kind of like
Totally.
we're growing. Okay, I'm kind of like putting them in different areas to see exactly where they're thriving, you know. So
I
it's
love
it's
it.
kind of it's kind of like a trial. Like there's a few that are dying, but I don't think they're dead. They just haven't sprouted. They could be too hot, They just need a controlled more environment than I'm putting them out in the direct sunlight, and I have herbs. You know what I'm saying? So
So
I
when you're doing seedlings, they actually recommend that, especially in the extremes that you are, that you would probably get them to a certain size, oh, maybe about this size, just as a kind of common average, and
Mm-hmm.
then you would slowly harden them off to the outside.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I used to do. But I don't have any inside right now because like the flies is just crazy sometimes, and the gnats, especially when I start growing the herbs and start
it
growing
does
like
make,
the
mhm.
flowers and stuff. My house becomes more of a fly machine. So I'm
What
just
about
like
that
tossing.
overhang area that's in so much shade there, but has a lot of great ambient light?
Yeah, that's where they're at right now. That's what I put them underneath. But I for a little bit, because I have watermelon, I have melons that really need full sunlight. So
Yeah.
but my dill doesn't need to be out there. He's thriving, but he's not doing the best. But I need to put half sun, half shade, probably in the
Mm-hmm.
front yard. It's just I gotta
More
I get
sheltered
my
areas
wheelchair.
from wind if
Yeah,
you're able to. Mm-hmm.
getting my wheelchair fixed tomorrow. Super excited about that. The rats went underneath and decided that they wanted to go and eat my wires. Fun. So it took a while,
Not at all.
a couple months just to get them, get them not on the phone, but just to get them going and getting it done because they didn't bring a ramp, because I have a sunken, living room, so that took another 2 weeks for the guy to come out. So I'm super excited about that. Now I can get out and outside and tell my husband like, hey, do this, do that. Okay, cool, let's do this. So I'm excited about that part. But other than that, just still studying my master food preserving. Still like trying to put a presentation together, for like my next class that I
I
have
see your
on here.
deadline for that.
Yeah, so I don't know how to do slideshows, but I know how to do a slideshow, but I just don't know how to do like like a graphic one where like where they're just not seeing the words. I want to put like maybe say images. So I'm trying to work on that part. But other than that, nothing really exciting. Just
When
chilling.
is your deadline for your project? When do you have to have it in?
Oh, I don't have a deadline.
Oh, that's nice.
As of right now, like I said, I finished all my case studies, but now I'm literally going back to the first day of school, and it dawned on me that I could watch the past live recordings of them. I watched them, but it literally clicked into my brain when I'm like studying him, like, oh my God, I can go all the way back to class number one. So now I'm just going through that and just rereading the book,
Mhm.
because I never really read it, to be quite honest. I just answer the questions that they give us, and it's really fast, Sabrina. It's like a huge fast class and so little time. And I'm trying to absorb it all and, absorb it in the way I can absorb it, color code, my words, all that good stuff. So I'm trying, I'm learning.
That's fabulous. I'm so happy for you and I'm so excited for you. I wouldn't want to take the class that you took. The Master Gardener class, I will take that at some point. When I'm going to have the time, I don't know. But
I'm going to
that's not
pressure
like
you to do that. I'm going
I
to pressure
know. I
you.
know. But it would be a whole new world to me, just like it was for you to approach the canning. I've been around it. Like I said, I've snapped some green beans. That's about the level of involvement. Maybe I helped with some tomatoes a few times or something like that. I never touched any of the actual even knowledge
Yeah.
of what it takes to can and do all of that. It's a very delicate thing. It's a
And it's
very
like, you have
dangerous
all
thing if you don't do it
yeah, when
right.
you're growing, you want to learn how to preserve that and all the so much that we grow. It's like we don't want to throw it to waste, whether you freeze it, dehydrate it, or you decide to can or whatever it
Those
is.
are those are my two preferences,
Yeah.
dehydrating and freezing. Um, you know, with my survival mentality, right? I haven't done much
Mhm.
if you knew nothing and had to survive, but you can't if you're really having to worry about surviving, there's not going to be a continuous stream of the lid to pressure seal.
For
And
sure.
so
And
that's
that
not
goes
my
with
main
like
focus.
freezing. That goes with freezing too. Like what
It
happens if
does
you don't
that you
have a
can dig
freezer?
down
Yeah.
into the ground to a certain point and it can
Yeah.
really help and you can actually go
You make it
in the
colder.
winter and you can cut ice cubes, big ice cubes out of
Uh-huh.
like a pond or a lake
Oh
or something
yeah.
like that,
There you
and then
go.
you pack it in sawdust in that lower down room, and you
Mhm.
seal it off, have a nice good sealed door to it, and you can have pretty decent refrigeration. And if you do anything with terracotta, I really want to look into some different ways to increase it through the idea of terracotta because terracotta can create some sort of almost natural refrigeration. And I don't really understand the process and I don't have time to tear into it right now, but that's something
Mhm.
I'm very intrigued by. That when I'm ready to go to that level, if I get a
Yeah.
bigger property, right? Like here, we wouldn't have room to do beyond like a cold storage area, right? But we could still, and we have one here in the house, and we could seal that off better and put ice blocks in sawdust in there and have decent refrigeration through most of the hot part of the year.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
there's ways. You have to think people survived before electricity.
Oh,
How
for
did they do
sure.
that, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I did find you a couple things on butterflies. So there's actually you can actually have like you consider it as a butterfly gardener. Okay. I tagged you in it, so you should look at it, and you can actually apply for grants. For pollination. So
Well, that's it's
yeah.
not
So yeah, you
necessarily
should
the
check it
the
out.
overall collectively rewilding like it was there for a minute, right? But when you start off bringing life back to the soil, some of the best stuff that you're going to be using is strictly, not strictly, is exquisite for pollinators. So even this year, we'll have some. So I'll definitely want to look at that. Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, it's specifically her butterflies. So you get like you can see it when you have time, but yeah, you get like a little certification, and you have to plant I think at least 6 plants in your garden, like mix soil and whatever. But yeah, you just look at it, and then it's .org, and yeah, I watched it on YouTube earlier today. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I can do it. We all can do it. Pollinate the community, monarchs.
Absolutely. I've not seen any monarchs. I've seen some swallowtails, and I think I saw a false monarch. I guess it could have been a monarch, but I'm pretty sure it was a false monarch. Of course, the little white butterflies, and not a ton of any of it, but I have seen a few at least. It's so sad how few butterflies we get to see compared to 30 years ago, 40 years
Yeah,
ago.
for sure. There was like that one year, a couple years ago, where like they just had like a swarm of monarchs. I don't know. I think it was like 3 years ago here in California. There was just a huge population of monarchs. It was freaking crazy, and like it was hitting people's windows. Yeah,
Oh.
that was the last monarch attack that we had. But yeah, we haven't seen a lot for sure.
I don't know if Utah's actually on the path. Cortez was, but you don't see very many of them in Cortez either. So it's sad, but we'll just have to keep going forward and see what tomorrow brings. And that's why each of us out there working towards contributing to a more eco-friendly, sustainable sort of path is all that any of us can do and the best that can be done. And hopefully it's going to really have an impact. And we're seeing it more and more every day, as we're certainly not the only ones out there doing all of these things. There's different inventions that are coming out, different understandings. People are researching the older methods. There's food forests going on, people that have owned mistakes that have happened in the past, and then that's starting to be studied a little bit better. There are a lot of really positive things going on that I think will hopefully come to a better understanding and a better way to interact with our planet and each other, right? Check out the chat real quick. Oh, Benny says his lawn has been mowed. It was really high. Way to go, Benny. There have been coyote sightings here. Is that unusual for you? We hear coyotes almost every night. Oh, and I'm saying it like my husband, coyotes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, regional differences, right? We hear the coyotes almost every night. There are at least one solid family, maybe two families of coyotes in the area. We make sure the dogs and the cats, or the dog and the cat, the dogs and the cat are more in at night. The cat needs to stay in the backyard, and I always tell my puppy, because she's very, very smart, oh, listen, there's the mean puppies, you don't want to go join into that, right? You've been hearing them. Do you hear them a lot, or is that not common where you are? Yeah, coyotes are a pretty consistent part of my life. You've been hearing them more. Coyotes are one of the animals that are really adjusting better to the large masses of humanity. They are in Albuquerque. I've heard that they've even learned how to use the crosswalks. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I've not been down to New Mexico for probably close to 7 years now, but that would be a heck of a feat if they are using the crosswalks. They are very intelligent animals, right? And they are adapting. Raccoons, bears, those are some of the animals that are adapting a lot better to what we're doing out there and about. There are a lot of solutions that are coming around, like we talked with Anita about the land bridges and the underpasses. So, all these different things. The supposedly largest land bridge in the world was created in California, or is being created. I think it'll be out, I want to say maybe 2027 is when it'll be completed. I can't speak to that. I don't remember. I didn't print it up. I just read it online. And so, like we've talked about, your brain does not retain things as well if you read it on a screen as opposed to a piece of paper. Definitely, when you're really invested in something, I encourage you to find some way to read it on paper instead of just on the screen, because it will really help your understanding of it, your comprehension, and your ability to remember what you read. So very nice, very nice. Anything else going on, anyone? Oh, looks there's something in the chat a little bit there. Oh, Kendez has joined us. Very nice. Hello, everyone. Absolutely. Kendez, what do you have going on?
So it looks like my broccoli is looking good, but I think we have some marigold or something that attracts like the butterflies.
Mhm.
And they decided to lay all of their caterpillars in my garden.
Oh, yeah, that's not good, right? um, I would be happy, but I can understand why you're probably not happy. Gardenary, I haven't gotten to put anything new in here lately. This is the newest of the two that I've put out. She is really neat, and I think I might have gotten some of it in here to plant almost like distraction plants around the things that you don't want the bugs to attack. And I thought it was a really, really brilliant thought process, right? I don't know if I got it in here or not. This is coming to about, yeah, okay. So yes, Gardenary. Let's just head over here and check
I
her
didn't know how
out.
to feel. I had mixed feelings. I was like, I like the butterflies, but the caterpillars.
Absolutely.
Well,
So whatever you do this year, that'll have to be a choice you make. But
Welcome
next
to
year,
the Gardenary channel, where we are on a mission to get
we don't need her premiere to go right now. If we go into her short.
Well, I mean, they're not eating the broccoli that we
Good.
eat, but they're just eating the leaves of the broccoli plants.
Nice.
So I'm having to pull off those leaves, put the caterpillars on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
the leaves that they eaten.
Well, it's good if they're not getting too invasive to your stuff yet. And
Is that a bad thing?
What's that?
You say yet, that they're not too invasive yet?
Well, I'm hoping that they don't get there, right?
But they're not eating the regular plants that are around the garden. Like those leaves look great. It's just the leaves in my garden they've attacked.
Is it getting to any of the food, or is it staying mostly to the leaves?
That's just the leaves.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dang, why you gotta get these leaves? Why don't you get those leaves over there?
They like what they like, right? And then if you have a mixed variety, even though the same plant might be 3 plants down pretty close in your eyesight, it might protect it from the ones that have already found this plant. So it's all dependent on what you've got going on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're about there. She's got a lot of really great things. And I didn't realize how many she had done. So we're getting there. I know we're getting there now. Okay, because she was talking about it like a little earlier in the year, right? So this is it, I think, right here. Let me just share it. Nope, I can't do it like that. So I have to go out of this.
No, because here's the thing. You don't need pesticides to control pests in your garden. You just need 3 kinds of plants. The first type of plant is a bouncer. This is like a bodyguard who keeps all the bad guys from getting on your plants in the first place. My favorites are herbs like sage and basil, and also flowers like marigold. The second type of plant are decoys. These are sacrificial plants that we offer to the pests in hopes that they will not eat the plants we care most about. I love using brassicas like radishes and greens, also herbs like dill and fennel, and then flowers like zinnias. The third type of plants are enforcers. These are plants that bring in tons of good bugs to eat all the bad ones. Some of my favorite plants to grow for these are herbs like dill and parsley, flowers like cosmos and coreopsis, and tons of native plants. Long before humans invented all these pesticides and bug sprays, nature knew how to protect itself from pests, and now you do too. No, because here's the thing. You don't...
Oh, did it start over?
No, because here's the thing.
Yeah,
you don't need pesticides.
There we go. So yeah, really, oh my gosh, I do not like the way these shorts work. There we go. Let's pause that. So that should be the right short so that I can share that in there with you guys. Oh, goodness. And that is the exact video that I was talking about there. And that is just brilliant. Of course, I've heard of planting things to stop them, as she called the bouncers, right? And bringing in the beneficial bugs. So the enforcers, as she called those, but the decoys, that was an entirely new thought process in protecting plants for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to share that with you guys. I thought it was a really good idea. And I thought I already had it in here, but I don't. So I definitely want to get that in here for you guys because that's just a really, really intriguing addition there, right? So I wonder what she called that. Let's take a peek, see if we can tell. Stop using pesticides. Oh my goodness. I just can't stand it. I tell you what, it's such a pain in the butt. Here we go. There's her title and her little spiel. Okay. And so what did you guys think about that?
Yeah, I like it.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't thought about planting it in layers quite so much like that either. Yes, the bouncers and the enforcers, but not like a layer. Like here you have the first ones that she called bouncers. Then you have your second, your decoys. Then you have your third right around the actual plants that you're protecting as your enforcers. So definitely some really great, did that sort of thing, really great information there. It does not want to cooperate with me. There we are. And a title so that you guys can get that anytime that you want to. All right, excellent. Really, really interesting lady. I'm very much intrigued by her style and her thought process. She's done a lot of information about gardening with kids lately, and I definitely want to get that in here for you guys. As I said, I'm working more and more at trying to manage my time a little bit more efficiently. I always have so much to do. It's not that I wasn't doing okay before, but it still wasn't really enough. And so I have put in some new plans and starting to implement those, but it does take a minute to get them established. So bear with me as I'm still kind of working on that there and all of that great stuff. So let's check out the chat, see what's going on in there. Oh, and Mr. Rogers here with us as well. Very cool. A lot of weeds. You've been getting a lot of weeds, like pulling them out or getting them out or having them come in and bombard you, Benny, with the weeds. And I may end up buying some ladybugs as well, Roger. Maybe a praying mantises as well. They've been growing a lot. Oh, I'm sorry, Benny. That's never any fun. His weeds are giving him problems over there. I don't really like seeing those bugs in those little containers. It kind of breaks my heart. So I haven't decided if I'm going to encourage the industry or not. But it is a very, very beneficial addition to your garden to add those in. The ladybugs, they're the cute ones, right? Of course, but the praying mantises are also very beneficial, and we kind of like praying mantises in our household, so we don't mind their creepiness, but they're also very good for your garden. And we've managed to bring the praying mantises in pretty good. The ladybugs a little bit, but the praying mantises we did see a little bit more, even though they're more solitary. That's why I say with the number that we saw praying mantises, we were bringing in more praying mantises than ladybugs. I'm guessing that they're probably better adapted to the bug life that may be here as soils regenerating, right? This is the second property in a row while I brought life back to the soil. And there, especially at the last property, were a lot of bugs that were not beneficial. The box elder style beetles, I don't know if that's exactly the bug that it was, but that style of beetle, they weren't as bad an infestation there as I've seen before. Montrose, Colorado, just gosh, those things can be crazy there. However, they were not at good levels. As we got the life back to the soil, started having the weeds and the clovers and all of the things that we were able to establish at other points, there were layers to the last property, I was able to start with the side yard right away, and then it took a little bit longer to work on the backyard, and then finally the front yard. So it was all in layers, and the arrival of the positive definitely came in layers like that as well. It's really interesting watching it come back to life on a property. It's really fun. I can imagine that ladybugs are easier to deal with taking out of those containers, Roger. We don't mind the ladybugs, but they don't need to be on me, right? Right, and they don't freak out the neighbors as much either, Roger says, for sure. Absolutely. My grandmother in her backyard, and now in my sister's backyard, I'm not sure. I want to say, gosh, I don't even know what tree it was. I have no idea. It was when I was a child. I was interested in all of it, but really more interested in the flowers, and it was always covered in aphids. So her yard always had just a ton of ladybugs in it. The tree was very healthy, but it was something that aphids really loved. And so it wasn't something that the tree was unused to dealing with. I'm sure no matter where it is, it kind of draws aphids, and then it brings in the ladybugs, and it never was an unhealthy tree, but you could go out and you could find a curled leaf anytime you wanted and open it up and look at the aphids. So I have not seen a lot of aphids on the trees here in Utah. When I was a child, it was wetter in Cortez, and I'm sure it was wetter here in Utah. There may not be as many aphids on that tree. I'll have to ask my mom to check that out. Not sure if she's here with us tonight or not, and it doesn't look like it. So yeah, I'll have to ask her to check out the tree and see if the aphids still dominate so readily, or if they've sort of disappeared as the temperatures have risen and the water has receded some from Southwest Colorado. Always kind of a sad thing, watching change in the environment. Not necessarily bad. There are deserts, there are tropics, there are deciduous forests, there are all these things, and they do shift over time. Whether or not humanity has played a huge part in this, we'll leave for others to debate. We're just going to work on our own little patches of area and implement what we think is best to achieve the kind of environment that we believe is a healthy environment, right? I just think that there are too many different types of ideas out there. There's too big of a population. I'd love to just say, no more big ag, cut it out, just stop. It's not practical, right? So we really need to approach these things with thought and really look at not only what has been done recently, but what has been done in the past, as well as things that have been marginalized from us a little bit as alternatives. Science is not always so super sciencey anymore, and we don't always have the ability to even look into alternative theories from whatever the main thought process is for whatever science it is at the time. That's kind of maybe being shaken up a little bit. I don't really know still how much overall I'm going to believe it. I feel like so many of the interests that are out there are vested in their own agenda. It doesn't really matter which side you're looking at or what country you're looking at. It's something I am going to witness with my own eyes. I am going to look around, and what I see when we have conjecture about how much the environment's changing, the biggest one that I can just always point to is the lack of bug life. When you would drive for 2 hours when I was a child, your entire front of your car was plastered with bugs. And no, I don't want to see dead bugs. However, I can go on an 11-hour drive and not see as many bugs in that context as I would have 20, 30 years ago, right? Yeah, right about. So I don't like seeing dead bugs. Didn't like seeing it back then when I really wasn't worried about the bug population because they seemed pretty plentiful. The fact is, it is an indicator of how few comparatively bugs are out there. Also, another way that the bugs have been decimated over the decades, right? So in my little patch, probably my biggest concern is helping to create a properly functioning biome. And that begins with your soil and your bug life. Then it would be for the needs of my family, right? The foods that I want to grow for my family. but you can't do that very well, I do not believe, without establishing those two pieces of that base, bugs and soil. Bugs and soil. Within that whole idea, we've been playing with the garden soil, Mel's mix, and CR's mix. Still with those bulbs, they are now in the exact same kind of location. The only difference is the garden soil has a ceramic pot and the Mel's mix and CR's mix have plastic pots. They're bigger though, so they have more soil, whatever that mix may be, to hold on to water, as well as being supposedly more water retentive. I have found that with the better pot for the garden soil and the larger capacity and the water retention of the two mixes, that they retain water at a relatively consistent rate. If the garden soil were in a plastic container, I don't believe that it would hold water as well as what the mixes are doing. If it were a little bit bigger, it might even been doing better, right? Longer ability to hold on to water if you've got more soil to hold that water initially. We still have only one bulb in the CR's mix and nothing coming up in Mel's mix. All three bulbs have been established for a good little bit in the garden soil. I myself do not find at this point that these soil mixes are better than garden soil. I'm going to play with it a little bit more. I'm not ready to give up on it. I also have readily admitted that container gardening is not my strongest suit. However, I can keep things alive and get them going, and they will not come up in the Mel's mix. Also, with my little rose bush that had had so much damage over moving in a container and all of these fun things over the last couple of years, the starting of the garden needing more water, the ability for that soil mix to retain additional water killed the rose bush. I'm not a big fan of these mixes. My established rose bushes, of course, they were in a little bit better health. They really butchered them when they were selling this property. I imagine they'd probably let them get quite overgrown and they just slash and burn, baby. So it was really devastated, especially on the furthest one to the east over here. They had no problem handling the additional water with their regular garden soil, even though they're very shaded and are going to retain that better. They have the leaf mold over all of them because they're under all of our leaves and everything. They will retain water very well where they are, and it did not in any way damage them. They are growing back to full health. Every day we've got probably close to a dozen blooms on the larger bush that wasn't quite as butchered, and it's close on the smaller bush. So again, I am going to say, even in the ground, which is where I prefer to be, I'm not a huge fan of these soil mixes. Now, understanding the type of soil that Tammy Larson is dealing with in her area of California, that is a different type of consideration. I still think, though, that by adding wood mulch when she's able to, cross our fingers, her area is very, very rural and does not see a lot of the same services. So definitely cross our fingers for her that she gets a nice, good, big wood chip drop. I think that that will create a much better soil and that you probably wouldn't need to go towards mixes. So it might take an additional year beyond what the soil here in Utah will take. Tammy's dealing with some pretty rough soil up there. It's very sandy, as she mentioned. There's a lot of plants that really like sand. There are definitely the majority of the plants that we would want to consider as a garden, whether a flower garden or a vegetable garden, they're going to want a better quality soil by quite a bit than what she's dealing with. They definitely want that here in Utah as well. However, hers is a little bit more extreme, and it might take that additional year of the decomposition of those wood chips to really create an environment that she can start moving forward with things like vegetable gardening. Like we're doing here, she'll be better off in the ground unless she increases the size and adds some good soil around those seedlings that she's got going on. She'd be better off to stay in the containers because it's just rough soil with tremendous heat, with tremendous amount of wind. So there's some definite things that vary from all of our different regions, and setting up some wind and sunshades as she's going on and coming out into the actual yard away from the container gardening will be a huge benefit in your area, Miss Tammy. But that too takes time. And that's where we can't make Daryl do too much. It's going to take time. And I believe that if you guys consider doing some, maybe with a little bit different mix, let's not do it this year. I don't advise these mixes. That at some point putting those gardens up to the level where you can work them in your chair would be super beneficial to you both, allowing you to participate more and have that help for him in the physical sense of what goes on in your continued journey into plants, as you've been on it for quite some time as well.
Yeah, I'll use my wheelchair to like tow things around or something.
Oh, that's a cool
Get
thing
like a
to
wheelbarrow or
do.
something.
I know that you'll be out there doing every little piece that you can, and the more that you can bring into your reach, the more fun it'll be for you both, really, right?
Yeah, we always have fun in the the garden that we have going on here. But
I don't know that you need to qualify it. I think you guys just always kind of have fun. But yeah.
yeah, we always do. We just like make it fun, even though like we fail at it and things die, but we
You
just
can't
keep doing it,
succeed if you don't fail, right? You have to have some failure to have
for
success.
sure.
And usually it's a decent little bit. Wonderful. Let me check out the chat real quick, see what we've got going on. Yes, I would probably agree, Roger. I've never tested it out, but I think that ladybugs do better with aphids. I think that than praying mantises. Like you're saying, mantises are for bigger pests. I absolutely agree with that. Desert rose. I'm not sure about that. Roger, what do you mean with desert rose?
No, he calls me Desert Rose.
Oh, of course, that makes a lot of sense. Yes, we're really lucky here, Roger. He talks about on his bigger gardens that he would bring in the earthworms. And this property had some earthworms on it already. I was really excited about that. The property we were on before didn't have any earthworms, but they are here. They're present here. I was really excited. When I'm working in my dirt mound over there, I do everything I can to save them. I don't know that I actually do, but boy, I sure try. And so, yeah, that's very, very.
They have like they have all different types of worms. They have like earthworms, because I did it too. I did worms, I did ladybugs, I did praying mantises, and I bought butterflies as well, and a frog, a little toad. Yeah, those little kids that you get with your kids. How they learn
I've not
stages.
seen a frog kit. Nope. I have not seen that.
Yeah, you should check it out on Amazon. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
might have to do that. I don't
for
know.
sure.
It's a
It's
little bit
pretty
dry
cool.
here. You definitely have to try to provide an
Yeah.
environment for it, right? When we get the tortoise, it has to have a water feature, and then that would be when maybe we could, introduce something like that. Roger says that he got like 1,000 ladybugs, and somehow they got out into his house.
No, that was me, Sabrina.
Oh, I apologize. I saw Roger
Yeah.
say that. Oh my gosh, Tammy.
Yeah, like I had
What did you do?
Oh my God. Like, so I had them in the room, one of the rooms that I had, and they accidentally tipped over. And I had nothing but fucking ladybugs for days in my house.
No, that's
But,
not good.
yeah, it was cool though. I let them out. And so I was seeing ladybugs, and
Yeah.
it was cool. I was like, I want some green ladybugs, because I love ladybugs. I used to love
Green
them.
ladybug?
Yeah.
I don't know about this green ladybug situation.
Yeah, you don't really see them, but the green ones are pretty cool. You're like, yeah,
I
I feel
have to.
special. I found a green ladybug.
All right, I'm gonna check this out.
Around here in the Washington area, it's so landscaped that if you get 1,000 ladybugs, some of them will stay in your garden because they can, but they compete with each other and they don't like it, so they leave as soon as possible. The thing is, in this area, there's so many places for them to leave to, so it's like your donation to the neighborhood. But in the desert, it's not very much attractive in the neighborhood, so I can see them just going in your house because there's nothing left. There's no
Well,
other place.
I had grass, when I first came here.
A 1,000 ladybugs.
They were loving it. They were loving my grass for sure, and it was just like ladybugs flying everywhere. It was pretty cool though. Yeah. Yeah, but it was cool. But I think it could have been yellow or green, but they have green ladybugs. I don't know if that's a mature, male or female, but yeah, they do have green ladybugs. They're like one of the lucky ones. Like you see one, you're like, oh, cool. It's like seeing a four-leaf clover or something, you know?
Did you see how that keeps doing that, guys? I thought that's what it did. Watch. I put up the search, but it won't like show it as a search. That is so weird.
Yeah, it's showing up as an Adobe PDF file.
That's what it changed that from my Google search. Like it never let me. That was really, really strange. Let me try that again in a new tab. Green ladybug. Oh my gosh. Did you guys see it? It's like a flash.
See, I'm telling you, they're very rare. So when you do see what it was like in a blink of an eye.
That was wild. I'm going to have to definitely see if there's something wrong with my computer. Let me go into Bing. That is crazy. So weird. Let me try one more time. Green ladybug. I will just. Oh, some of those don't look.
See how cool they are? They're actually that color.
Some of those looked AI generated. I cannot get it.
They are green for sure. I used to see them all the time as a kid. I don't know if they're like come from a different county or a different state, or they're just, but yeah, they have green ladybugs. Has anybody else heard about the green ladybugs, or is it just me?
Let's just hear it.
Yeah, it's probably just me. Probably a Simi Valley thing.
Around here, we just have red, but occasionally there'll be some yellows. But
yeah,
that's rare.
Green. Yeah, there's
no greens.
Yeah, I know I've seen a green one. Like I said, they could be in like green, yellow, but like I don't know if the dark green fades into a yellow. I don't know if they're like camouflage.
That's what it says right here. This one just says there aren't any, but then if you go here, they're temporarily green. It says an emerging ladybug just out of the pupa stage may not yet have its final identifying colors, and often no spots have developed either. In the right setting, they may appear to be either a yellow color or even a very pale green color. So it's more like an optical illusion. And then there are other things that look like ladybugs, but see, that's AI. That may not be AI, but it looks like it's probably AI. I think that it was a little bit of an optical illusion, and when they were probably babies. That's my guess. I don't know what's going on with my Google. That was really bizarre.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I've just seen them before. Like I said, I don't know if it's a baby or if it's like an adult, or like I said, it could be in like, it changes colors. I don't freaking know, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Let's just look up, goodness. How do wasp hybrids reproduce? And see if it does anything weird. No, just on green ladybug. It just wouldn't let me see the search for some odd reason. Wow, interesting. Very interesting. So I don't know, somebody out there didn't want us searching about green ladybugs. That was a little bit bizarre. Yeah. All right. Well, very cool. All right, guys, let's check out our calendar for the week and see where we're at with that. I think Thursday is our next class, and that is correct. So we'll be back with everybody this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Mountain, 9:30 p.m. Central, and 10:30 p.m. Eastern for gardens and more Q&A. Very fun. I hope you guys all had a wonderful time. I love talking with you all, hearing where you're all at, and I hope you have great weeks. Please feel free to unmute yourselves and say goodnight, everyone.
Buenas noches, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Oh,
Buenas noches.
I can't get the French one in my head. Your mind just goes blank when those cameras are on you. I swear to you. So, yes, I think isn't it Buenas tardes? Isn't that the
That's a good afternoon in Spanish. Buenos
Tardes?
noches.
Buenos
Tardes.
In the
noches.
winter, I
Nice.
say buenos snowshoes.
No.
Of course
shoes.
you would, Roger. Of course you would. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful night, guys. I'll see you on Thursday.